Hello dear students, welcome to Vikasana YouTube channel. I am Dr. Chandrakala HT, Assistant Professor, Department of Computer Science, Government First Grade College, Madhugiri. In this video, I will be teaching you CPU scheduling. You will be learning the following concept in this video: process concept, process state diagram, process control block, process scheduling. Under this, you will be learning scheduling queues. First, let us learn the concept of a process. Program becomes a process once the coder compiles the program successfully and selects the run or execute option. When you type the program, you save it in secondary memory. Then you will compile the program to clear the syntax errors. Once you have compiled successfully, you choose the run option to execute the program. When you choose the run option, program moves from secondary memory to primary memory, and from now on the program becomes a process. So process is a program which is present in the primary memory and it is ready for execution on the CPU. Now let us see the differences between a program and a process. Program is a set of instructions to accomplish a given task, whereas process is a program under execution. Program resides in secondary memory, whereas a process resides in primary memory. Program is a passive entity. It possesses only secondary memory locations, whereas process is an active entity. It contains program counter, stack, data section, etc. This is how a process looks in primary memory. A process will be allocated some number of locations from 0 to max in primary memory. The max depends on the size and complexity of the process. The allocated primary memory locations for the process are divided into text, data, heap, and stack sections. The text section consists of the program code or the set of instructions of the program. The data section consists of global variables. Now, what do these global variables mean? Dear students, as you all know, a program is a collection of functions. Program contains main function and subfunctions. If the program is a very small and simple one, then it contains only a single main function, whereas a complex program consists of main functions and collections of other functions as well. The local variables are those variables which are accessible only in the functions in which they are declared, whereas global variables are accessible in all the functions of a program. These global variables are stored in the data section. The local variables of a program are stored in the text section itself. The next part of the process in primary memory is stack. Stack consists of the temporary data of the process. Temporary data can be the intermediate values which are obtained during the arithmetic and logic operations. The next section of a process in primary memory is heap. Heap consists of dynamically allocated memory. A process can be allocated memory in two fashions: statically during compile time, whereas dynamically during runtime. Those memory locations which are allocated to a process during runtime are called as dynamically allocated memory, and these dynamic memory locations will be stored in the heap part of the primary memory allocated to the process. Next, you will be learning process state diagram. ಸೊ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ನಿಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಂಗೆ ಒಬ್ಬ ಮನುಷ್ಯನ್ಗೆ ಅವನ ಲೈಫ್ ಸೈಕಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಸ್ಟೇಜಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೇ ಮನುಷ್ಯ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಇನ್ಫ್ಯಾಂಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತಾನೆ ಹುಟ್ಟಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಚೈಲ್ಡ್ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಟೀನೇಜರ್ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಅಡಲ್ಟ್ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ, ಅದಾದ್ಮೇಲೆ ಓಲ್ಡ್ ಪರ್ಸನ್ ಆಗ್ತಾನೆ, ಸೀನಿಯರ್ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ ಅಂತೀವಿ ನಾವು. ಸೊ old person ಆದ್ಮೇಲೆ after certain years he will die. So these are the different stages of a human being in his life cycle. ಸೊ ಮನುಷ್ಯನಿಗೆ ಹೇಗೆ ಲೈಫ್ ಸೈಕಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೋ ಅದೇ ತರ ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ಗೂ ಸಹ ಲೈಫ್ ಸೈಕಲ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಪ್ರೊಸೆಸ್ ಲೈಫ್ ಸೈಕಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ 5 ಸ್ಟೇಜಸ್ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆ ಸ್ಟೇಜಸ್ನ ನಾವು ಆಪರೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಟರ್ಮಿನಾಲಜೀಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸ್ಟೇಟ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಕೂಡ ಕರಿತೀವಿ. So the first state of a process is new state. The process will be in new state when it is just created. So when the process is just born or created, it will be in new state. Newly created process, when it is ready for execution on the CPU, it will be admitted to a ready queue. So since we have a multi-programming environment on the computer, more than one process will be kept in the ready queue waiting for execution on the CPU. Out of these many processes which are ready for execution and waiting in the ready queue, one of the process will be selected by the scheduler and dispatched for execution on the CPU. The process which is dispatched for execution on the CPU changes its state from ready to running. When the process is in running state, the CPU would be executing its arithmetic and logic instructions. In a program, there are not only arithmetic and logic operations or instructions. Along with these instructions, there will be input and output instructions as well. The input and output instructions are not performed by the CPU. The CPU, whenever it encounters the input-output instructions, it will outsource the work to the I/O devices by momentarily suspending the process which was executing currently. And instead of sitting idle, it will take another process which is selected and dispatched by the scheduler for execution. The process which was suspended will change its state to waiting, and it will be in waiting state till the I/O operation, input-output operation, is completed. Once the input-output operation is completed, the process changes its state to ready state and goes back to ready queue. Later, once its chance comes, the scheduler will select it for another turn of execution on the CPU, and the process moves to running state. A running process might be forcefully suspended and put back to ready state whenever the CPU is interrupted by a process which has higher priority than the currently executing process. In such case, the suspended process might have to wait in the ready queue till its next turn comes and later go for execution on the CPU. So, process keeps cycling in these 3 states: ready, running, waiting multiple times till it executes all its instructions. Once all the instructions of a process are executed, the process will exit from the primary memory and jump to the terminated state. So these are the different states of a process. At any instance of time, more than one process can be in new, ready, waiting, or terminated state, whereas only one process can be in running state in a given moment of time, because there is only one CPU on the computer and the CPU can execute instructions on behalf of only one process at a time. So this is about the process state diagram. ಸೊ ಡಿಯರ್ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್, ನಿಮಗೆಲ್ಲ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋ ಹಾಗೆ ಇಂಡಿಯಾದಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಬ್ಬ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಗೂ ಒಂದು ಆಧಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಅಂತ ಇರುತ್ತೆ. ಆಧಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ದು ಎಲ್ಲ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಸೇ ಫಾರ್ ಎಕ್ಸಾಂಪಲ್, ಈಚ್ ಸಿಟಿಸನ್ಗೆ ಒಂದು ಯುನೀಕ್ ಐಡಿ ಇರುತ್ತೆ, ಆಧಾರ್ ಐಡಿ. ಮತ್ತೆ ನೇಮ್ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ ಆಧಾರ್ ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಮೇಲೆ, ಡೇಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಬರ್ತ್ of the person, his residential address, present address as well as permanent address irutte. Then the iris print, fingerprint of the person will also be registered on the Aadhaar card. So generally Aadhaar card andre a person du lot of information ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ರೆಕಾರ್ಡ್ ಆಗಿರುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ರೀತಿ ಪ್ರತಿಯೊಂದು ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ lot of information, almost all the information about a process is recorded in a special data structure called process control block. So it's the operating system which maintains the process control block for every process which is present on the primary memory of the computer. This diagram shows a sample process control block. The process control block contains many pieces of information about the process, like process state, process number, program counter, CPU registers, memory limits, list of open files, etc. The process state indicates what is the current state of the process. So as we know, there can be 5 different states of a process. So the process state portion contains one of the 5 states, namely it can be either new or ready or running or waiting or terminated, any one of these. The process number is nothing but the unique ID of the process. Every process will have a unique process ID given by the operating system. The program counter is the address of next instruction of this process which has to be executed on the CPU. So the program counter value keeps updating to the next instruction. After each instruction completes its execution, automatically the next address will be generated and put in the program counter. Next, the registers part of the PCB contains the values of the CPU registers. These are generally the operands of arithmetic and logic operations, or to be more precise, these are the values of the variables of the programs which are used in computations. The memory limits contains the beginning and ending address of a process in main memory. The list of open files gives the details of all those files which are allocated to the process. So this is about the process control block. Every process will have a unique process control block representation in the operating system. Next, let us learn few things about process scheduling. So ಈ particular topic ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಹೇಗೆ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಕೆಡ್ಯೂಲರು ರೆಡಿ ಕ್ಯೂ ಇಂದ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸ್ನ ಸೆಲೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ ಅನ್ನೋದ್ರ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ಹೆಚ್ಚು ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂತೀವಿ. ಸೊ ಮೊದಲನೇದಾಗಿ ಸ್ಕೆಡ್ಯೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಕ್ಯೂಸ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. ಆನ್ ಎ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ which is multi-programmed, we maintain 3 different queues: job queue, ready queue, and device queue. So when there are only one set of hardware and many processes waiting to make use of the hardware, naturally a queue has to be maintained for each and every device. So even in real life, ನೀವೆಲ್ಲ ನೋಡಿರ್ಬೋದು, ಜನರಲಿ ವಿ ಫಾಲೋ ಕ್ಯೂಸ್. ಸೇ ಈಗ ಬ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು ಅಥವಾ ಪ್ರೊವಿಷನ್ ಸ್ಟೋರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇರ್ಬೋದು, ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಡೆ ನಾವು ಕ್ಯೂಸ್ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ವೆನ್ ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಮೆನಿ ಪೀಪಲ್ ವೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎ ಸಿಂಗಲ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್, ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲಿ ಅವರೆಲ್ಲ ಹೋಗಿ ಕ್ಯೂ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ನಿಲ್ಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಯಾರು ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಕ್ಯೂಗೆ ಹೋಗಿರ್ತಾರೋ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ನೀವು ಕ್ಯೂಗೆ ಎಂಟ್ರಿ ಆಗೋ ಆರ್ಡ್ರಲ್ಲೇ ನಿಮಗೆ ಸರ್ವಿಸ್ ಸಿಗುತ್ತೆ. ಅದೇ ತರ ಕಂಪ್ಯೂಟರ್ಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಪ್ರಾಸೆಸಸ್ನ ಬೇರೆ ಬೇರೆ ಕ್ಯೂನಲ್ಲಿ ಇಡ್ತಾರೆ. ಸೊ 3 ಕ್ಯೂಗಳಿದೆ: ಜಾಬ್ ಕ್ಯೂ, ರೆಡಿ ಕ್ಯೂ ಅಂಡ್ ಡಿವೈಸ್ ಕ್ಯೂ. These are the 3 main queues which are used for scheduling purposes. A job queue consists of set of all programs in the system residing in secondary memory. A ready queue is the set of all processes residing in main memory, ready and waiting to execute on the CPU. Device queues are the set of processes waiting for an IO device. So for each IO device, a separate queue will be maintained. The processes keep migrating among these various queues during its life cycle. In this diagram, you can see the various queues. The first queue is the ready queue. So every queue consists of a queue header which contains 2 pointers, head pointer and tail pointer, and the processes in the queue are represented by their PCBs. Say in this diagram, for example, ready queue consists of 2 processes, process 7 and process 2, which is represented as PCB7 and PCB2. So it is the entire PCB, process control block of the process, which is queued up in the ready queue. The head pointer points to the process in the tip of the queue. So a process pointed to by the head pointer will be the one which is selected next. Each process stores a pointer to the next process. So if you observe in the diagram, PCB7 is pointing to PCB2. So in PCB7, the address of the process PCB2 is stored. So like this, PCB2 will store the next address and so on. The last PCB will store a null pointer to indicate that it is the last process in the queue. And also the tail pointer in the queue header will point to the last process in the queue. So like ready queue, there are many other queues like magnetic tape queues, disk queue, terminal unit queue. Terminal unit can be input-output devices like monitor, keyboard, etc. So in the disk unit queue, there are 3 processes, process 3, 14 and 6. Terminal unit, there is only one process waiting, process 5. This queuing diagram shows how the process keeps moving or circulating through different queues, mainly the ready queue and IO queue. A process which is in ready queue will be selected by the scheduler and allocated CPU for execution. The CPU keeps executing the arithmetic and logic instructions. Once the CPU encounters input-output instructions in the program, it suspends the process which it is executing and it starts executing another process on the ready queue instead of sitting idle. The process which was waiting will move to the IO queue because there is again a queue of processes waiting for the input output devices to take service. So it migrates through the IO queue to IO device, and after completion of IO operation, it goes to ready queue by changing its state to ready. So once the process gets its turn in the ready queue, it will be chosen again for execution on the CPU. So not only IO operations, sometimes the time slice allocated for the process might expire. So the scheduler might allocate time slices for each process in the queue and allocate CPU in a round robin manner. When the process is executing in the CPU, if its time slice expires, it will be suspended from execution on the CPU and it will be put back to the ready queue again. Might also happen that a process which is executing on the CPU might be complex, and to get its job done, it might subdivide its complex task to simpler one and create its child processes, or it might fork its own child or children processes to complete the execution of the smaller bits of the process. In such cases, the process has to wait till all its children processes execute. So once its child process executes, uh, the process which was suspended from the CPU will be put back to the ready queue, and later it might get the next chance to execute on the CPU. Sometimes the process might require huge file transfer as part of its execution. File transfer is not the job of the CPU. So file transfer is generally initiated by the CPU to secondary memory, and the CPU keeps doing the execution of some other process. When the process has to do huge file transfer, the process keeps waiting for the file transfer to complete. Once the file transfer is over, the secondary memory will interrupt the process. The process which was waiting for this interrupt, as soon as the interrupt occurs, it indicates that the file transfer is over and it changes its state to ready state and goes back to the ready queue. So later it might get a chance to execute on the CPU. So after cycling through all these phases, finally time might come when the process would have executed all of its instructions completely. Once the process completes its execution, it exits from the CPU. Thank you, dear students. That's all in this video. The rest part of CPU scheduling will be taught in part 2 and part 3 of the video. Keep me posted on your queries on my mail ID drchandrakalahd@gmail.com. Please do like, share and subscribe my videos. Thank you.